Keep your friends close. Keep your enemies closer.
Calling all freaks. Calling all freaks now. Here I am, Blade. Wesley Snipes.
Not know who you are.
Messing with Blade 2. Calling all freaks now.
Alright, y'all, the time has come for me to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time, the 2002 flick, Blade 2, starring the one and only Wesley Snipes. So ain't nothing to it but to do it. Now, I think this one's my favorite film out of the trilogy because I love the dark and gothic, creepy feel that Guillermo del Toro was able to contribute with this film. And it stands out to me definitely out of the three. I love the first film wholeheartedly as well, but I think the humor in the second film also works the best with the wolf pack and how the banter's going on back and forth. I think Kris Kristofferson steals the show as Whistler, has my favorite performance from him ever. You fucking nipplehead, like he's just dropping awesome one-liners and banter and just shit-talking dialogue that's fantastic. And of course, I can't go further without talking about the title character. Wesley Snipes here, he feels comfortable. He kicked ass in the first film, but in the second one, he's very effortless, if you will, charismatic, comedic when he can be, comedic as far as like a dry, funny one-liner, but the delivery makes it funny. Kicks total ass in this film as well. Very menacing. Still to this day, I feel that nobody could have played Blade better than Wesley. And mentioning the wolf pack, we have Ron Perlman as the main guy, Reinhardt, and he has some of the better dialogue in this film as well. He's going back and forth with Wesley Snipes. They're standing off through the whole film. They're working together to eliminate the vampires, or the Reapers. And eventually they have a final duel at the end of the film. Not necessarily a big one-on-one fight, but it's definitely a final confrontation. Ron Perlman always plays a great villain. He's one of my favorite actors as well. Great job as Hellboy, which is also helmed by Guillermo del Toro. But his character in here, an asshole, but still likable. He's a bad guy, if you will, but still very likable with his funny dialogue and just the way the character is. Blade 2 also contains one of Norman Reedus's earlier performances. He had already done Boondock Saints like 2 or 3 years prior, but I also enjoy his performance as Scud. He's Blade's right-hand man after Whistler is presumed dead from the first one. We start off Blade 2 with Blade on a search for Whistler after he finds out he's still alive somewhere in Moscow. He travels over and manages to get Whistler out of this creepy liquid tank that's preserving Whistler, if you will. Whistler is a vampire after this encounter. Not fully, but he's definitely in the turning process. Blade brings him back to the laboratory at home. Scud is very hesitant. He's not sure if Whistler is going to come back and kill him, but they lock away Whistler in the room for the night to see if he can go cold turkey or if he can beat the virus. If not, the sunlight's going to get him and it'll kill him. He wakes up the next morning. Blade walks over, sees Whistler is free, and he's like, "How do you feel?" Like hammered shit. That's one of my favorite lines in the film. I always quote that line for some reason, still to this day. Luke Goss does a great job playing the main Reaper, Nomak. And at first, he is the villain, for sure. But as we get to the finale of the film, it turns out that his father is the puppeteer behind the strings. He's the one that's orchestrating all the shit to go down, for the most part. But Luke Goss is very threatening, very creepy villain. The Reapers are very terrifying, how their fucking jaws rip open and they latch onto the victim and that's how they feed. Very interesting design. And I always thought the creep factor on these guys was done rather well. This is where I felt the Guillermo del Toro touch, mainly with the Reapers. And of course the nightclub scenes and the gory, grotesque imagery, like the fucking vampire with the back carved open and the spine, and the other vampires playing with the vampire spine or something. So we do get some very creepy, gory imagery for sure. But again, Luke Goss does a great job playing the main Reaper, Nomak. And the fight scenes between him and Blade are awesome. We have this one dope fight sequence where Blade and Nomak are going at it and they're throwing blows, fighting each other on this long plank in this construction type of zone. They're throwing each other around and shit. Dope scene. Now, I know some people have some nitpicks with the CGI, and I can definitely see that for sure, but it didn't bother me, and I'll tell you why. And this is coming from somebody who's not a CGI guy for the most part, especially when it comes to blood and gore. There's one fight scene near the beginning where Nisa and Blade are fighting, and there's the other guy, Assad, I think that's his name. They're all going at it. It's like a Blade versus these two. There is some CGI touches in here that look very computer and very video game PS2 style, I will admit. But for some reason, it works for me. This scene gives a very dope energy to the choreography and the way they're just bouncing off everywhere kind of and shit, and the sword play. I really enjoy the sequence, the Nisa and Blade and Assad fight. And that's the main thing I can think of when it comes to the CGI, because it's very noticeable in that scene for sure. But it doesn't bother me. And I do like the Nisa character. Like, she has her pretty cool moments of kicking ass as well. She has some nice moments. But I'm not the biggest romance guy in my movies, admittedly. There is no romance in this movie, but there's tiny, subtle hints of Blade and Nisa and them locking eyes and shit. And there is some sexual tension going on, just a little bit. And I did read the trivia that a sex scene was planned or filmed between these two, but they cut it out. And you can definitely tell there is that tension in some parts between these two characters. I don't know. I like Nisa. I don't mind her character at all. I think she does a pretty good job with what she was given, and she has some cool moments. Again, almost forgot to mention, in the Wolf Pack, we have one of the earlier appearances from Donnie Yen, especially in an American film. He's also one of the stunt choreographers or fight choreographers in this film as well. But I always felt Donnie Yen was just a little bit underused in this movie. He has one or two cool moments, like one scene in the nightclub where he's fighting the Reapers. He's using the sword play. He has one little cool gesture where he's like, when he's looking at the vampire. So he has one or two cool like camera moments where they're on the character. He has his little pizzazz, but I still feel he was underused. You know, I think we could have had a little bit more Donnie Yen showing off some cool fight moves and choreography himself. But if he handled a good chunk of the coordination with the fights behind the scenes in this movie, then that's dope. Then I don't have too much to complain for. But I think that's one of my bigger nitpicks of the movie, is just a little bit more Donnie Yen. We could have used a little bit more. I do like the Wolfpack overall. They're colorful characters. Again, the banter between everybody, the Chupac guy, the priest guy, everybody's having fun. You can tell the actors are having a blast. Blade 2, one of my favorite movies of all time. Again, my personal favorite film in the franchise. I love 1. 1 is like a 10 out of 10 for me, or a 9.5. I love 1 so much. But I'm going to give Blade 2 a 10 out of 10. I have no shame giving this a 10 out of 10. Again, wholeheartedly, fantastic film. Great vampire movie. Great action movie. Nice horror elements. Awesome Wesley Snipes performance. Kick ass as always. Great supporting cast. Kris Kristofferson steals the show. Blade Trinity is another story. I don't love Blade Trinity, the third film. I have problems with it, a lot of problems. My biggest problem was the way they handled the Whistler character right in the first 10 minutes of Trinity. And that was right off the bat, the biggest problem that I had for that film. That's it. I'm out. I hope you enjoyed the review. Subscribe for more. Until next time, peace. Fro.